would you come here sometime in early March, perhaps the first week in March, when we hope to have the books closed and where we can talk, and you can help us chart the course here to set our finances on the right course. So that does that answer your question, Mr. Chairman? We have obviously some issues with the budget for 2015. We have some other steps that will be taken to address some of the financial issues. I think most importantly, the tax title properties, the properties that are tax delinquent. As you know, at the last meeting, Chairman invited a representative of a firm that would purchase tax titles and pay the town the back taxes up front. There are several firms that do that. This would be an expedited way to collect a lot of back taxes that are owed, roughly $700,000. Perhaps we wouldn't be able to include all those properties, but to collect a substantial amount of the back taxes that are owed, which would then be available to the town. And secondly, I did distributed tonight a list of 5 properties that have been foreclosed and are owned by the town, and suggesting that we that the selectmen designate a tax title custodian to proceed with an auction of those properties, which will A, generate some revenue, and B, restore property to the tax rolls for the future. So there's a lot of things swirling around here. Sometimes the situation can seem difficult, if not grim, but I think the problems can be resolved. It's going to take several months to get it done, but I think the town can emerge from this fiscal year in reasonably sound condition.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I just had 2 quick questions. One is, I just wanted to point out, which I think is obvious as well, and that I completely support the tax titles and pursuing those to get that money as well. But we have to remember as well that even though it could be $700,000, that that's still a one-time revenue that we get. So ultimately, without either an increase in our tax base or an override or cuts, it may be 2 or 3 years down the road, but without some kind of structural adjustment, I think we'll always be coming back to this place. And then my other question is, do you know how far, and I can hold off if we're going to discuss this separately, do you know how far behind our cash books are for this fiscal year? For 14?
At the meeting this morning, we were told that the cash reconciliation is at August of calendar 13. So we're number of months behind on that. And by the way, I would underscore what you said here, that trying to close the gap in the current fiscal year with one-time revenue is far less than desirable policy. It patches the balloon, which is unfortunately necessary now. It's too late in the fiscal year to do anything else. But in fiscal 15, other structural changes are going to be needed to bring the budget into some kind of permanent balance, and that would certainly include some trimming of the budget. It would include some measures to increase efficiency. Certainly the selectmen have mandated for the current year 5% cuts on all the departments, and there may be more of that coming, as well as looking for opportunities in terms of not filling positions and other efficiencies, so that we do not have what they call a structural recurring deficit that you have to fill with one-time revenue.
Beth?
Do you know if the tax title accounts have been up to date? Have the people been,
We were told this morning that tax title liens have been recorded at the registry in Worcester, but that the tax titles are not necessarily up to date in that some payments have been made, some partial payments have been made, and that data has not been incorporated.
Because you really need to be very careful about
Yes.
sending out a list of
Yes.
properties and
Yes.
find out that someone's paid their bill
Yeah.
and haven't received credit for it.
And I believe there was some discussion between the treasurer and the collector to work to make that happen. Because there is a list, but whether all of the, if there's been any partial payments or anything, whether they have been reported or not. But that is the thing that was brought up, and
Okay. It's very important.
something that has to be done before anything, action
Just for the
taken.
record, that's on me, not the collector. So
Right, but I know as far as if somebody had made payment or partial payment to the tax collector, that's got to travel downstream. And I think the point was that the list has not been, yes.
And just as a follow-up question for the town administrator, if I may, and I won't hold you to this or quote you in 6 months' time, but given that the cash books are the reconciliation is 6 months behind roughly, what do you think, based on your experience, the likelihood that we will be ready by November 30th in 6 months from now, well, not 6 months from now, November 30th or the likelihood that we will again be late?
I think that that's just not acceptable. It has to happen.
Oh, right.
And,
I completely agree. Yeah.
Will happen. And as you know, there is some assistance now from a private accountant who's working on the cash book and so forth. So it just can't. I don't want to predict the future, but
Right.
this just can't be allowed to happen.
Right.
It has to stop.
Yeah.
So.
It was, again, it wasn't assured, and he wasn't fortune-telling, but the fact that everything will be transposed into Vadar, there won't be the issue of looking at the cities and towns and Vadar and all these little things. So half of the issues that have been the holdup will not be there. It doesn't guarantee, like I said, I won't predict the future, nor would the accountant, nobody did, was willing to do that, but everything, all the stuff will be in the Vadar, and it will be much easier and much smoother. And the issue will be catching the cash book up and those types of things, but it won't be transposing from, like cities and towns into Vadar and figuring out all these little nuances and this and this and this. It'll all be into Vadar, so that half of it, and we're assured that it will be a lot smoother and things should go in a more timely manner than have been the last 2 years. Wilford?
That's sort of a two-pronged question. This $505,000, I would assume from the discussion that the $505,000 is a problem just for F-14 and nothing to do with the town finances of F-13.
Correct.
Correct.
Correct. If we have the problem with F-14 of $505,000, and I do not know, because I've never seen it explained in details how we came up with the $505,000. But it has been said that that's an absolute figure, $505,000. If we spent $505,000 in F-14 that we shouldn't have been spending to take care of the town finances, is that $505,000 going to be equally a problem in F-15?
Yes.
Unless something is
Yes.
done like an override?
Yes.
And if it is, why are we really doing very much thinking about what we need for an override? Because it sounds like you need an override of at least the $505,000.
If I can respond, I think that before asking the taxpayers, and just discussions with selectmen, before asking the taxpayers for more money, 500,000 plus, be about $1 on the tax rate. Before asking for that, I think the town has probably not, the town government has an obligation to see what can be done to trim that $500,000 plus shortfall. And so asking for $500,000 may not be, in the end, what's required. There may be ways to save money in the fiscal 15 budget that would not require a full $500,000. But I have to say honestly, I think at some point, a presentation will be made to the town meeting and to the residents, which says this is what is going to have to be needed in terms of additional taxes, and if it isn't voted, here are the services that will be changed or reduced. Without being threatening, I think that's a reality. That's a reality that we just have to face. So, again, I think, the balloon can get patched in 14. The real issue is coming in 15. That budget process is now underway, and that's going to, I think, bring more pain for the town.
And to carry over with that, Wilfred, I'm of the opinion that since the shortfall was the result of, errors, and I don't agree with using the one-time funds, but asking for the taxpayers for an override to cover errors versus just, cost increases. If we could patch it, fix it with one-time revenue for 14, I think that's the way to go, so you can tell the taxpayers we used every available thing we had to fix this mess. But moving forward in 15, an override would be needed, and that would be a thing to ask, because moving down the road, we're just gonna need the money.
Yeah, see,
Because of all the things that we have no control of.
One of the things that has concerned me, and I've spoken out at the selectmen meeting, and I use as an example the Board of Assessors because I'm familiar with that, is that we had a shift of personnel, and now all of a sudden we're short a person in that office, which is a very critical office. And rather than saying, gee, we have to fill the position, the selectman has chosen not to do it. And when we talk about F-15, there are things that we are doing without that may be in the total town evaluation of personnel and equipment when I think of the highway department. Not only do we are going to be talking about how we can be more efficient, but I think we also have to look at situation where we can't afford any more cuts. And the Board of Assessors is a very good example of that office. You have one key person, if for some reason, she has to go on vacation, if people do get sick, and now we have a key office in town that you don't have really the backup in that office.
I have spoken to Luann about that very situation, and she has matter of factly said, for right now, the workload I can do myself, but moving forward, when all these things have to happen and get done, she's gonna need help, because there will just be, well, as you said, if she goes on vacation, but even if she didn't, even if she just stayed in that office, there's stuff coming down the road that's gonna have to be done, and she will need, she has to focus on the things that have to get done in a timely manner, and then all assisting the public when they come into, I turned in my plates, I need a rebate, and someone, she can't get the work done, and you're right, you can't afford to keep that position cut, because it costs you more in the long run.
Well, I was glad to hear that this 505,000 wasn't partially carried over from the F-13.
Yeah, no, it's just,
That would have been
that
bad.
was, no, that was just a 14 issue. And we only have until June 30th of this year to use any certified free cash from fiscal 13, from what if I understand the DOR correct. Otherwise, we will have to wait another year to have any access to that fund, so. Did I cover every answer to the thing that had been asked? So we did the 14 and 13, we're all set on that. The next thing be the department budgets and any impact statements that we've received. I think we have the highway department, conservation. Are these the only ones?
Those are the ones that have been received. I don't have an impact statement from COA, but we just heard the action that they've taken.
So, again, I think the ones that we have, has it answered? It answers some of where we might find a little bit.
Yeah, do you mind if I don't speak to this because I'm the one who asked for these? If I can have a little bit of latitude here. I just got these. I did get the fire chiefs ahead of time, but fire chief has come for a couple of meetings and we've talked about when you make cuts, and I believe that Mr. Dennis has just alluded to this a little bit. My concern is that there's always a place that you can make cuts somewhere. I mean, one of my questions is it may be minimal, but I've said that I would prefer not to have paper anymore. I would like everything electronic, and maybe I could save a ream of paper next year. It's not a lot, but it's a start. When you start making cuts and you don't have the personnel that you had before, the fire department and the police department can't make revenue. So they can't make as much. And the point was, even for the ambulances, to begin to be self-sustaining. So, I mean, I would like to make some of these impact statements. The ones I've read are very good. Some of them are very short. The chief's is 2 pages long, which is wonderful. The total of the fire department budget would then have to be reduced by a third. He actually, Chief LaForte goes into the 5% cut, which was first 2%. They had their first 12.5% in FY 13 and more and more and more. And in the end, it's 35.5% just for the fire department. I mean, no one wants to have their taxes raised, and I understand that, but you have an assessor's office with, what, 1 person right now? Okay, and now we're asking her to cut 5%. Okay, where? Honestly, where does that happen? So, I would have to read through several of these, a service from the Conservation Commission. That would result, and they have a secretary who works 5 hours a week right now, and that would leave their office short for people to get paperwork. Okay, that's just, one thing. Hazmat collection. Every person did a statement, which, I would like to take some time to read through. And again, I'm going to make these public so that the town can read through these also. Some of them actually have budgets on them. Some of them do not. So, Bob, do we not have all of the budgets? Is that what you said?
That's what I have at this point.
This is just what we have.
That's what has been submitted.
For example, the tax collector, excluding what is already committed for postage on mailing of real estate and excise and personal property and demands, the advertising and a filing for the registry of deeds, there's approximately $22,000 remaining. 5% would be $1,100, and it has to come out of someone's salary. So now we're affecting other people's livelihoods. So, again, so these people are always seem to be like sitting on the edge of the seat and, are they're maybe looking for jobs elsewhere. And we have long-term dedicated employees here, which I've said a million times over the years, I'm completely grateful for. And we just keep saying, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be able to have a job, or I'm sorry, we're going to cut your hours, or they got them back and maybe now we're going to take them all away from them again. So, if you think about your own budget in your own household, you've made decisions based on what you think that you're going to get financially, and now we've just taken that away from you yet again. So I know several that have been here in town and over the last override, they left because they couldn't wait. And at this moment, understandably, we're gonna see what we have for free cash and, the tax title. Those are all one-time things, and the reason that we're in this position is that we've spent money every single year, and now we're down to next to nothing in stabilization. So that's not sustainable for a town in general. So the impact statements were more, to look at the normal layperson like me, to look at just budget cuts, that's one thing. But to know how it's going to impact your department revenue-wise, I believe is very important for people to have all of that information available to them to make a wise and informed decision for the town as a whole, and understanding that we have like a small amount of employees who are doing the work of 2 people, and that, they deserve our thanks for that at this moment in time. I think thanking them would be giving them their hours back and letting them keep them, and having another another person in the assessor's office so that Luann doesn't feel like she's, I don't know how you would do that. So I'm an advocate for keeping already what we have and making wise budget cuts and not to people's livelihoods. So.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems that we're going to face, and I'm not calling out Bud's, the highway department, but just because it's on top. Ultimately, the thing that when we make cuts, because a lot of the easy stuff, obviously the low-hanging fruit has already been cut down over the years. Really, so like, you can't just go down the budget and every line item just cut 5%, because obviously if diesel fuel doesn't go down by 5%, we're going to end up spending just as much. So ultimately what happens is that the bulk of those cuts come in the form of salaries of employees. So I think that the town ultimately will have to make a decision, and I've said this before, and either way the town decides, it's fine, obviously, it's up to the town, but we'll have to decide if we want a full-time town government or a part-time town government, which other towns do, and it works out for them. I mean, it's without some kind of override at some point. It may be small ones over the years, the ones that we haven't gotten over the years while we've been using free cash. We cannot maintain the same services. And I should say we can't maintain the same services. We can't maintain the staffing and the structure the way they are now. So if that's combining the treasurer, taxes collector's offices, if that's combining other offices, if that's putting everyone, kind of squishing them in one building so we save $75,000 a year that we pay on rent. If it's those kinds of things, I think ultimately the voters are going to have to decide which a majority would prefer. And obviously we'll abide by whatever the town decides, but I think that really to say that we're going to make big cuts without laying people off, I don't think it's not going to happen. I mean, that's where most of our money goes, is paying people's salaries. So.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
since Selectman Brooks brought it up, one of the things I would like to have seen as a person in the community is not to receive 4 individual envelopes with 4 additional envelopes
Oh, I agree with you.
for excise tax.
Yep.
That's unacceptable.
Yep.
It should be unacceptable to everybody. That may be a small thing,
It is small, but
but
it's, yep.
the small things that we had taken care of in each department, and I just brought that one out because in receiving 4 excise bills, I ended up getting very upset with the fact that we had that much postage over 4 envelopes. Inside was 4 envelopes. We wasted 4 envelopes that they can send it, and 4 envelopes that I have. I mean, we can't be doing that in each department. That's only one small thing. And one item like that in each department could end up being substantial amount of money that could be saved. So I'm just bringing that out as the.
I think I said before that I would prefer that this town not send out any envelopes at all. I don't think it's necessary. I don't, and again, it's a small thing, but I know what companies pay for envelopes. It's really not needed. A lot of people pay things online and want to be green and want to be, and I think that we should try to abide by that. I have brought that up
You
before,
have
and that
multiple
includes the light
companies
and water
not sending
department.
envelopes anyway, even if you make payments, you use
Just-
your own envelope.
Right. That's entirely up to you.
Yep.
I agree. That's why I said there's small changes, so I'd like to try to save a ream of paper.
We mailing them to ourselves is a bigger problem.
I would like to get back to the impact statements that were requested, and I appreciate the effort that went into gathering all of this, and I agree that it should be, I believe it should be on our town website.
Yep.
So that everyone can access exactly what these impacts are for each department. And I believe that there are some economies that can be taken. Envelopes are one thing, but we're also going to have to look at how we're going to deliver the services that we deliver. And are we going to change our procedures? And that we have to do that. We can't continue to do the same things we've been doing because it's not working. And the 500,000 shortfall from the use of stabilization and free cash to supplement and prop up your budget, that's basically an average. If you took all the free cash that's been used over about a 10-year period, it averages out to about a $500,000 figure. And that's what the structural deficit is. So in order for us to keep providing the same services that we're providing right now, we need an additional $500,000. That's the bottom line.
All right, anything else?
Was that
You want me to make a motion?
well, are we gonna put those up on the website? No, it's not a motion, but can that be done? And again, not all the budgets are here, like, I think that Bud did his all together, and then he might have written a separate email, but to kind of link those together, I know we don't have all the budgets, but I believe we asked for that when? So I'm a little unclear as to why we don't have them all, and I would like them immediately. Because you've been given time to do that, and I know 5% is tough, but, I mean, right when we asked for an impact statement, I was emailed. I don't look at whoever else gets them, but I was emailed one from the chief and one from somebody else. It was an immediate response, like, oh my God, this is so important. This is very important, so I would like to see those budgets by the end of the week.
Is that something you can get on the website easy enough, Paul?
Yeah, I can get that on there quickly as soon as I get them all together.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's another small change, but I would love to see biweekly payroll and electronic deposit only.
Oh, that's a great idea.
We've had discussions about that in the past. There are some people who believe that that has to be done through impact bargaining, through the union contracts, in order to get that done. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. We didn't spend much time on it, but that's something that's been suggested for many years, and it keeps coming up and nothing ever gets done.
There was a couple of past treasurers, well, one for sure that I know of that but I know it's been in front of not this board, but the Board of Selectmen.
So what's it gonna take?
Can somebody ask the question so we can move on it, if it's possible? Can somebody ask the question? Is it a bargaining, is it not a bargaining?
That can be found out.
Sure.
You're writing down right now?
I'm writing this down.
Unless they moved up and choose coming out.
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
No, I'm not getting one. A friend of mine asked to ask for her.
And the one thing about it is that, and because I worked at a company that paid us every week, and then they said, hey, by the way, like in 3 months, we'll move into every 2 weeks. So one of them, somewhere along the line, you better put some money aside, if you got weekly bills or whatever, to cover your stuff, because this 1 week all of a sudden, you ain't getting a paycheck. So, but that was just one of the things they dealt, but that was private and all that, but that was just one of the things that, had to throw out there. If you make the switch, like I said, it was like 3 months.
But I mean, that's a good example if we, get all that arranged now, so the beginning of the fiscal year, we do that, we're gonna have cost savings in the next fiscal year, which we need, and people will have plenty of time to plan for it.
Part of it, I think, had been in the past, it's been brought up, and then some other fire came up. It was a lot of these things, they get brought forward and we're gonna do this, but then something hotter comes along. It's been a lot of reactive instead of a lot of proactive. I
Can
think we go
contribute
back
to
and
the
look
water
at-
bucket that's thrown on the fire.
No. That's him.
I think there can be significant reduction in the amount of paper that we consume by increasing reliance and use of electronic files and storage and controlling
Such as?
printing and controlling the distribution of these reams of paper that go flying around.
The
various-
vendor warrants,
Hmm? Yeah.
it's crazy how many
That's
copies
another
of-
thing that's been brought up by the accountant, doing different things, writing 6 checks when, you could do one, or you could do electronic. It's just the number of bank accounts you have, and I know the number of bank accounts have been pared down prior, but there's still, for whatever reason, there's still a number of them out there, but
But can we look at a process where we don't have to submit, a jillion copies?
yes.
Do you have department head meetings, all of you together?
Now we do.
We have
Okay.
department head, yeah, we have.
Yeah, we're going to be meeting Thursday mornings
So
at 9
if-
o'clock.
If you could bring that up at a department head meeting for all of you to collectively think about some of those things then
Okay.
that would probably be the best place to resolve that, and probably not here.
Yes,
Here's an easy one, how about printing on both sides of the paper?
well, I do that at home.
I always do.
But when I can, I do.
So few people do. So read your latest version of your personnel policy.
Half the paper.
Yeah, I mean, mine, I print on both sides.
I don't have mine printed. Ours is electronically.
Well, I do it because I'm cheap. So we can, the ones that we have, we can get on the website, and you can adjust a number of these things. And on Thursday with the department heads. I know some of these things have been brought up
Yeah.
through various forums, and it's been pushed back because it's changed. In some cases, it's a big change. And for some reason, that's kind of hard.
We could even get the selectmen
Yes.
packets.
I'm sorry,
Get the
Bob, what was
selectmen.
that?
I'm fine if I receive everything
Yeah.
electronically.
I'm great with that.
I mean,
I don't
I'll-
want all this.
I'll print it
Not
out.
even
I
remotely
know,
interested
I
in having
believe,
all that.
was it,
Except for what comes from other people when they bring it
was it you
here.
and I that had the discussion that
Yes.
one town bought
Yes.
tablets? It's an initial big expense, but they bought tablets, and for, I forget how many you said, but at least at the selectmen's meeting, they all had tablets and just looked at everything electronically. And so instead of having, this, all this paper, you would just have a tablet in front of you and look at it, open it, and read it.
It would be a big change. It was my assistant in Ipswich, we called her the paper Nazi, who started controlling the amount of paper that was distributed to the various departments, and saved $7,000 one year, used a portion of that to buy iPads for the selectmen, digitized the packets, no paper, and then forced all the other boards and committees to do the same. And the iPads weren't to be taken out of the building, they were to be used by various committees, and it came out to a very significant savings in paper. But, it's a significant change. The first step was to send out the packet, to digitize the packet, send it out as a PDF file prior to the weekend, let the board members read it over the weekend, and then they began bringing in their laptops, and eventually we standardized on iPads, and it worked. Took a little time, but it worked, and there's a significant savings there.
John?
A couple of years ago, Jeff, the Wachusett Regional School Committee, which has 18 members, went paperless. And in about 6 months, they saved enough to pay for
everything.
18 iPads.
Yep.
It's worth it.
A case of paper is, I don't know, $70, $50, somewhere's in there. And how many you use during the course of a year is probably,
Yeah, it
you
is.
get into thousands of dollars.
Oh, it is?
So I can believe it.
I think Holly had her hand up.
All right, Holly, then.
I was just gonna say, that's where we had talked about the centralized purchasing. That's where that would really come in
Yeah,
handy,
we need
because
to
now
do-
you have, you know, say the building department buys their own paper, the Board of Health buys their own, so you can't really control who's buying what. If you did it in one place, so you could really control it and save them.
And there was, when we were, back a few years when we were hiring the town coordinator, one of the candidates came in, and myself and Julie were on the board at the time, but one of the candidates had said he'd gotten a job as, I think, an administrator, and there was a budget of like $1 million shortfall, and he fixed it in a year or 2 years, and the question was like, how the heck did you do that? And one of the things that he did that upset a lot of people was he went around to all the departments and seen, you know, boxes of pens and pencils and this and that, and he took control of that and made it centralized purchasing. So when you wanted paper, you wanted pencils or pens, you went down to his office where he worked at and opened up the cabinet, and here you go, and then they just marked it down and kept track of it. And that was one of the things that he utilized to correct that budget, and it adds up quick and saves a lot of money. But that's a change. I brought that up a few times to try to get that going. We tried to change everybody to go into Staples and getting away from Mason because WB Mason is expensive. And even that has, and maybe, you know, the way that it was done was kind of like volunteer to see how the change would occur. But it's a number of things that like that would have to be done, and it would have to be pushed and enforced. So, Dan, you had a...
Yeah, I just wanted to take this opportunity to let people know that one of the reasons the treasurer is behind on the reconciliations with the bank in the cash book is because the cash book had to be replaced when the city and town went away. So we built our own cash book. And in that, constructing the cash book, I have made provisions for every entry that gets placed in the cash book. You can click and view a PDF file of the supporting document instead of having to go to the file to dig that information up. So it's going to save auditors and people time. It will save me trying to reconcile the records. However, because the auditors still need the paper piece, it's costing me more time initially because I have to provide the paper in the file until people and the auditors specifically get used to the idea of being able to have all the backup that they're thinking of. So it's not saving paper today, but it's laying the groundwork to allow that to be saved in the future. And in the future, when I receive the files electronically instead of by paper, I won't have to take the time to make the electronic files.
Because everything will just start
It'll all
to
be
stay.
there.
Diane?
I don't want to belabor the point, but why can't we just say that you can't order any more envelopes right now? Why can't we just say that we are gonna create a centralized purchasing? Why are we just still talking about it? Why don't we just do it? I don't understand, so can
You'll
we?
stop me dead in the water if I can't order envelopes.
Well, every department's, I don't think that we need to have return envelopes for customers.
Oh, not return on.
Yeah, I'm saying, there's definite ways that people have already pointed out that
I
we
don't
can say,
see
why are we
return.
just not doing it? I don't understand that. Why are
Sorry, I
we just,
misunderstood.
can we just issue that edict? I'm issuing that right now. No more return envelopes. Bob, can we, I don't understand. We're done. I'm done. I don't want to be the dead horse.
That would be a thing that the administrator.
So if you have department head meetings, you just do that.
And this and that. Yes, well, then we need to move on.
This is going to be real quick. Have any of you gone on to the advisory board website and looked at the recommendations that we gave to the last two select boards? And some of the recommendations that you're talking about are on there that we made to the select board. Centralized, one place to move all the office supplies and they go out. That was in 13. In 14, we made some additional ones. If you please look at that, it's already on the website, that was made to the selectmen. I don't, I know it's not this board,
It's not this part.
but they were made. There was a number of recommendations.
I thought we had done that.
No,
It's not being
no,
done.
it hasn't been done, it was kind of voluntarily done to try it. Okay. Move on. Okay, move on to the next one, we covered.
Yes.
Repeat that.
Yes?
Can I just have a vague memory of when we were in the Kiva having our meeting, that we took a vote to request that Mr. Ritter look into the details of going to centralized purchasing.
Yes, you
Did
did.
I think we,
Yeah, you did.
can we,
You
like,
did.
can we ask that, like, maybe that could be an agenda item to see what practical steps would need to be taken to do that?
Can I comment on that?
Okay.
He did look into it, and basically, you need someone to take on that responsibility. And I think he was gonna have it be in the selectman's office, and we just, I don't know if we have the time to add on to what we're already doing. So somebody
did-
has to do that.
He did get accreditation through he took all the classes to get certification of the Massachusetts Chief of Procurement. Oh, whatever that is. Yeah, what you just said. But he did do that. So, I mean, it was kind of working that way, and that's something moving ahead. When that position is filled full-time, we can shift the duties and we won't even be talking about this because that could be the administrators, it's an administrative thing.
Do we know what the percentage savings equated to when we went to the Staples centralized purchasing?
Unfortunately, not
Ballpark?
everybody went there.
I-
Again, it's changed. and
At least
people
10%.
pushed.
At least
But
10%.
yeah, I know it was a significant, it's a significant savings. It's not a genius type of thing. It's, so, yes.
That could be an edict then, all the departments have to use the
Well, as I
Staples.
said, at the department head meeting,
Okay.
we can, and
Thursday.
I'll try to
Do it
attend that
Thursday.
and look at it and find the reasons why departments don't want to do that. What's their reasoning?
We already have enough edicts to issue on Thursday, so we have to delay.
What time is that meeting on Thursday? I'd like to.
The next item is the tax title auctions, which we've kind of covered. We have these parcels, and I think some of them are really small. Like River Road. I think at one time there was discussion of, and I think actually some landowners whose house or something is next door to some of these smaller parcels have inquired about, hey, I'd like to buy that land, because you can't do anything else with it. It's as big as this room or a couple 100 feet. It's non-buildable. It's only valuable to them, to a neighbor, landowner. Unfortunately, I think they have to go out to bid and things like that. And that was something I think that had planned to look into. I don't know if it was ever followed up on, to put out to bid these small parcels. I know Turner Lane has been here more than 3 times. Again, it's a small little piece of land, and there are just things, I think it's just been a lack of movement, of follow-up.
The other question, Mr. Chairman, would be the status of 252 of Baldwinville Road. Maybe the board would want to talk about that at a future meeting and give us some direction as to what we're going to do with that.
We had put it out to bid, they received no bids. The board instructed the town coordinator, then Jeff Ritter, to look into if it could be advertised through commercial real estate firm. I believe there was an opinion that came back from town council, the way you could do that. I believe there's also a thing on the Inspector General's website with regards to Chapter 30B of bidding out stuff, and I think there's a way to do it as long as you don't show like favoritism towards one particular firm.
And I think if you get a bid and it's below what you paid for it, then you have to put that back in the central register too, just to let them know that.
Right, so, yeah, we certainly could. I know that legal opinion's in there. It came back as far as going to commercial realtors to try to generate interest in it.
No, he had sent me a letter. That's
And of course, the tax title thing additionally was, it's kind of already been discussed. Excuse me. You have to get all the tax title accounts. They have that list, has to be up to date if anybody's made any partial payments or anything, you know, has to be put aside. So that's the first thing that needs to happen to get the wheels going on the rest. And then there is not only the company that came before the board a meeting or two ago, but there are a few other companies out there. And the administrator has checked and it does work, and it's a good way to go. And it's a lot of money owed to the town, and it needs to happen. And we do have an individual who's volunteered to do those letters once we get the updated list of who to send them to.
Chairman, I did call Town of West Springfield, Quincy, Sterling, City of Lowell, and I talked to the DOR office in Springfield, and they all said that this, while it's relatively new, is working very well. High praise in some of the towns that I called for an expedited process, first of all, because the town process is long and agonizing and costly, and that it worked well for them, and they have a process where they stay up to date, and after the required timelines are passed, they move quickly to sell the tax title liens to any firm that is interested in buying. So we would have to do that. Although we had talage here, we would have to advertise to any company that wanted to come and purchase those. We wouldn't automatically be able to negotiate a deal with that one company.
So will that be for the 3rd? Will that be the meeting on the 3rd?
I would hope so, yes.
Are we making a motion on this? Make a motion on this?
Yes.
Do you want a motion on this, the 4 that we actually own?
There's 5.
Or 5?
There's 5.
There's 5 parcels.
Do you want a motion on these?
Yes, I think that,
Can I ask, so who would this be handled by? Who would
well, the
actually-
standard procedure would be for the selectmen to designate a tax title custodian.
Okay,
Can be anybody. Typically, though, it's someone in the financial end of the business.
yeah,
And there's a small process that they have to go through, and then eventually they advertise an auction
yeah,
and conduct an auction. Sometimes if you have a lot of property, they get an auctioneer, but with just a few properties, it would be a situation where bidders would come into a room like this, and each property would be taken up, and you might establish a minimum price and auction them off
Can I ask you something?
with, yes.
Yes.
Would they notify abutters? Like,
Yes.
They would?
Correct.
Okay, because I remember
Yes.
years ago, the way they did it was one of the assessors would come up, stop at the house and say, gee whiz, got a lot right next to your property, you've got any interest in it? And at least the abutters knowing
Yeah.
that it wouldn't be sold out from underneath their feet, you know? That's good.
Well, that'd be essential, because these properties are little non-buildable pork chop lots.
Yeah, yeah.
The only persons interested probably would be abutters.
Well, even back then, some of them, they were pretty good
This is not
sized
a pork
lots.
chop lot.
That's how they did it.
I thought,
Bob.
Oh, 97.
Bob, Dudley Road is not a pork chop lot? What is that? That's $182,000 value.
Yeah.
So, I guess, which that, I would call that pork chop in the
Okay.
real estate world.
Oh, this one I think has
That's
to.
fine.
That's
This one, my mistake. Just-
Oh, okay.
You say Dudley
So this
Road,
one's
is
not
that a
really
farm?
on there. I'm sorry?
Not Dudley Road, is that a farm?
Well, I'm not sure. Is this one really right? Because there's a note on here.
Top of the hill we've been arguing about. I went back to the
It says
state.
It's my mistake, just interest owed. I don't, this says,
Acres.
there's not an address. It's 22-11.12 parcel.
How many acres?
97.
97.
That's the one, that the state just took it over.
The state just took this
lost, the
over?
Dudley Road on top of the hill.
So we
That's one of
might
the shop
not have
deals there, the guy was gonna do all this common work and took off with the $37,000.
Oh,
It's the
yeah,
same
yeah.
guy's land. He lost that land.
So this might
He ain't gonna get that back.
Okay,
That land
so,
was given to the wildlife. Dudley Road, top of the hill, the right-hand side.
check with
The other land down the bottom of Dudley Hill on the left is given to the conservation preserving land there. Up
Yeah.
9 acres, by Resets.
Yeah.
Remember?
so,
Another piece of land, the town took that over for walking trails, we
Right,
make
right
your heart
across
run
from-
better and stuff, ride bicycles, chase rabbits.
so are we,
I take their down to that road, never got paid for that.
so we're looking for a motion to move ahead with this?
Back halfway through the street,
75,
get your feet wet.
Well, maybe it is 5, but somebody needs to research what Mr.
Well, I
Casper
just
is.
tell you,
are considered
Yeah,
buildable
two
lots.
big pieces of land on Dudley Road. One at the top of the hill, and the piece across from Resets that they
I'm
took for
not
the...
gonna take responsibility for which one's which,
You went
but
around.
to just move ahead, moving along.
So I think these two
I'm
I'm
are.
concerned that we're gonna run out of time. People have already left.
Depends where that 2 acre thing
Yeah, the
starts.
minimum, it's in the village district or whatever.
Whatever you decide.
But whether they're buildable or not, we need to sell them. I mean,
Just
it's doing
make
us
sure
any good
people
sitting
haven't
there.
paid their bill and it hasn't been taken off.
Absolutely, I mean,
Do you want to look into these further?
yes, and I certainly want to reassure anyone who's concerned that it is very embarrassing to be accused of being tax delinquent when you aren't.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're very sensitive to what the ladies just mentioned.
That's what I'm just trying to explain. This guy here owed all that, now he's the guy with $37,000, he wants his money reimbursed for doing the common work. He ain't paid his taxes up there, he paid to give the land away. Did we collect the money?
That's the
The taxes
person.
were owed on it?
That's the person that, that we had, when we had a meeting, he was he here or not here? And
He wasn't
he
here,
doesn't.
didn't show up.
Oh, he wants their,
Yeah.
is that the same?
Yeah, it's
Same outfit.
37.5.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah. You know
I-
what?
yep,
We-
I
we
remember.
sacrificed, we sacrificed.
Yeah,
Yes, Mom.
we talked about it, right.
This,
I find this a little amusing because, well, I would suggest that you follow the town administrator's suggestion. I would like to add that I do, it seems to me that when we talked about abutters, that in some cases, you want to have the abutters to the abutters included. And I can remember the Board of Assessors used to be asked to provide that information. There's some strange things that have happened in the community. Stacy, there was a family by the name of Stacy in East Templeton whose house burnt down. And that was next to Constantino's garage. And the property where the house was that burned down got sold. There's a trailer there that sells grinders and hot dogs and I guess what else, whatever you want to buy. that they have. But that ended up on the town meeting floor. And the town voted at that time that when you come to sell property, you had to go to town meeting before the town could sell the property. Things got that, people got that angry over it.
Because, it gets sold kind of under the rug,
Well,
behind the door.
I don't know if they could afford rugs that.
Yeah, but
Is that time?
Well, I would follow the town administrator's recommendation, but I would be very careful. I think it'd be wise to notify the butters to the butters that, the thing is going to be put up for sale. Because it's been a sore spot in this community in some cases.
My question would be to you, do you want to look into these specific properties further, or at least clarification on at least one? Yes. Come up before we do take any action on it. Okay. The next thing would be to discuss the CPC application that Doug had brought forward again.
All right, well, back in our meeting on the 27th, if you remember, we voted to go ahead and submit an application to the CPC in order to get, to see if we can get support for doing the necessary preservation work at East Templeton, which would be the roof and the boiler. So I put together an application. I did go to Will and I both went to the committee, CPC committee, at their February meeting. And in that version of the application, I had included the ramp and the restrooms, which after some good discussion, we really boiled down to those are things that are required in order for us to have occupancy of the building, but they're not really required for the preservation of the building. Now, the CPC money is for the preservation, so had to rework the application a little bit so that it just includes the roof and the boiler, so that it qualifies as only preservation. So we're asking for $195,000. I got some more information from Will. I'll need to double check the numbers, make sure our numbers are still good.